Welcome to Midweek, Experiments in Faithfulness. This, as pretty much everyone here knows, is a facilitated weekly spiritual practice with a Quaker flavor and an experimental ethos. My name is Lahari, and I'm a program fellow here at the Beacon Hill Friends House, which is a Quaker center for learning and action in a residential community of about 20 people who live according to Quaker values. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing Maureen Lanan with the practice Spiritual Vehicles. She writes, beep, beep, you may have heard tell of spiritual journeys, but what about all those spiritual vehicles? This midweek, we will step into our metaphorical parking lot and get a chance to describe our favorite vehiclare vehicle. We will examine a few examples like the parts list from a simile by the Buddha, a leap of imagination from a psalm to a recent appearance in a Quaker Worship, and get a chance to describe our own vehicle. Then look out, because we will take one out for a spin. Beep, beep, hop on board. It just brings me so much joy. What a fun one. Now I'm excited to introduce you to Maureen. Maureen Lanan is a chemist, Quaker, meditator, and explorer both spiritually and physically. She travels by canoe, bicycle, foot, public transit, and EV, mainly in Newton, Massachusetts, with occasional forays all over the country and the world. To accomplish her current ambition to create a better world, she studies the teachings of Ajaan Geoff, deGraf, Ṭhānissaro Bhikkhu, and enjoys participating in her monthly meeting, Beacon Hill Friends meeting, which is right here, the Friends House. Maureen, it's all yours.
I wanted to talk with you about spiritual vehicles because they've been showing up during my meditations. It has me a little bit curious. So I started out with the theme song for Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, because actually Skywalker was a character that talked to the Buddha one time. And this is where that came from. And if someone would like to read that out loud for us, maybe I need to, or you could read it yourself. Anyway, I'm going to read it. Once I was a powerful Skywalker. My stride stretched as far as the East Sea is from the West. To me, endowed with such speed, such a stride, there can, some missing word, desire. There came to me a desire. I will go traveling to the end of the cosmos. I, with a 100-year life, a 100-year span, spent 100 years traveling. But without reaching the end of the cosmos, I died along the way. When this was said, the Blessed One responded, I tell you, friend, that it isn't possible by traveling to know or see or reach a far end of the cosmos, where one doesn't take birth, age, die, pass away, or reappear. But at the same time, I tell you that there is no making an end of suffering and stress without reaching the end of the cosmos. Yet it is just within this fathom-long body, with its perception and intellect, that I declare that there is the cosmos, the origination of the cosmos, and the cessation of the cosmos, and the path of practice leading to the cessation of the cosmos. So it's all what I'm going to be talking about in terms of spiritual vehicles really has to do with the internal aspects of our fathom-long body. So I went ahead and listed out internal and external aspects. So from the internal aspect, we've got like how our body feels from the inside. And we can adjust that a little bit by breathing. We can breathe fast, slow, etc. We're also, we've got nerve endings. So the whole thing is like a big position and movement sensor. We also have other things going on inside, of course. We talk to ourselves. We choose what we're thinking about. And we've got like our sort of like all the assumptions that we're coming in with that like might make all my muscles tense while I'm sitting here. And I'm not even aware of why, but it's sort of like a background attitude. So there's probably other things as you guys play around with vehicles, they might come to us and we'll come back here and put them on the list. So then there's all the external stuff, right? And in this case, that would be anything coming in from the outside, like sounds, smells, food. With each other, obviously, we're very impacted by our friends. And that's interesting because 20% of it comes by language, they say, communication, and like a whopping 80% of it is nonverbal. So, and then of course there's everything we read and the media and like canoes, sailboats, and your imagination, the entire cosmos, though, the entire cosmos apparently is in this one, internal aspects. So whatever you can imagine or see or observe from the outside, you now have a magic replicator. You can take that inside and work with it. See what impact it has. What does that do to your position sensors? Do you get any different readings on your screen? Which screen? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about guardrails. Okay. So we've got ethical standards. Would this cause any harm? If you can think of a harm, don't do it. And aesthetic standards. Will this engage your imagination in useful ways? Will it give you some energy? Everything's voluntary. And I want to just sort of add, if you have if something's troubling or something, just raise a hand or unmute yourself and say something if you're on screen. We'll adjust. And we'll respond, because I know for myself, that's something I really treasure. It's one thing to have people around, but it's quite scrumptious if there can be some interaction. Okay, vehicles. So we all know the definition of vehicle. I thought I'd put one in here. Transporting stuff, an agent of transmission. So Zoom in this case is a vehicle. I mean, really, we can play with it. A lot of variety there. Okay, we'll get into some examples. The first one is courtesy of Susan Schaller, who some of you may know. She used to live here. And she was kind enough to write some examples. Now, she is an author, and so I'm kind of doing added the heading, and I think her vehicle are words. After pleading for gates to be opened, that he might enter to give thanks to Yahweh, who took him to a high place, connotes home in ancient Hebrew, he sings out psalms or songs. This is the gate of Yahweh. The righteous may enter, and I give thee thanks. There are no gates. Just as the vehicles are a kind of trick to get us to see reality. So I just wanted to share the day before Susan left to move to Europe. She and I went to an extended meeting for worship, and Susan shared on Psalm 118 in a way where I felt all of my sadness and distress kind of contained in my body, and so I could sort of comfort it very effectively. And so that's sort of like my personal vehicle that came up as a result of the kind of thing she was talking about in Psalm 118. So I don't know if that's clear or not. I'm getting a nod. And then from Rabbi Dove Bear in 1772. If you come to know the purpose of prayer, to return the creative words to their source, your prayer may be joined to the constant flow of creation, word to word, voice to voice, breath to breath, thought to thought. When you focus all your thought on the power of the words, you may begin to see the spark of light that shines within them. Second vehicle, we got a parts list. This is from an extended simile by the Buddha. This is so he was standing there by the road and with one of his people, and a chariot came up that it was all white horses, white chariot parts. And Ananda said, "Wow, what a sublime vehicle." So the Buddha's like, "Ha, you think that's a sublime vehicle? Wait till you hear about my idea of a chariot." So there's someone, well, all right. So the horses of a chariot to the Buddha would be conviction and discernment, because you don't want your conviction to be gullible. And the axles are jhana, which is the calmness that you experience sometimes during worship. When you feel that kind of like shift, and it's like, oh, I didn't even realize I was that nervous. So the axles may turn around, but they still have a still center, right? And then wheels, right effort or good behavior. So it's easier to roll than drag a vehicle. And chariots were vehicles of war in that day. So the weapons that the Buddha recommended would be non-ill will, harmlessness, and seclusion. So I think goodwill as a weapon. And then a shield would be endurance. So it's armor for your car. And then the driver is mindfulness, because without a mindful driver, car just sits there, or it could be dangerous. They could just drive into a ditch. What does it mean you don't want your conviction to be gullible? So conviction is sort of the motor. So that's sort of like why I would like show up to meeting for worship week after week. But, if I was showing up, I could be showing up to a group that's planning a bank robbery.
Yeah, the conviction.
And I would be putting my energy into something that was going to have like a bad effect on me. So you need to like be careful of sort of like who you're listening to. And as you know, right? I mean, we all live in the city, so it's like, yeah, you can. So with this interior stuff, all the more important, because you spend a lot of time with your external ears and eyes kind of closed off. So like whatever messages you have rumbling around your head can become really important. Are we ready for the third vehicle? Okay. I don't know. Time check. Am I doing okay?
You're doing good.
Okay. Third vehicle. So Netflix, sailboat, wiggle within. Okay. So the process, I don't know if y'all can relate to this or not, but like a couple of years ago, I was having a hard time. I was renovating my condo, and it was annoying. And I started just wanting to chill out. And so I watched Law and Order over like episode after episode. I watched all of the Law and Order episodes. There's pretty many years worth. Anyway, I had a problem. Okay. So, and I have a meditation practice too. So I was like, all right, well, I have this problem. I have this meditation practice. I'll pay attention to what's going on as I'm doing this stupid Netflix thing. Right. And so I was like, okay, I'm enjoying the episode. Episode ends. And I don't feel as good. I just get a little wobbly or something. And then this stupid button shows up and it says, you know, if you press this button, you can skip the credits and start the next episode. And I would just press the button and next up, you know, and this process would just repeat. I was still, anyway, before that, years before, I had the opportunity to sail a little sailboat, never done that before. So the feeling of that is pretty astonishing. So you're moving quickly with the wind, and then you have to change direction, and you turn the sail into the wind and it starts luffing, right? And then the forward momentum of the boat stops. And so everything shifts and the boat becomes tippy because the hull is designed for a certain speed. And so it's a little awkward right there. I did discover why they call it a boom. Anyway, the sail goes to the other side, the wind hits the sail and you're forward, you know, moving forward again. And it's like, yes, got through that with a little headache, but okay. There's some parallels, right? Like in my body, like thinking and the wind kind of, either one of those, it's like a predictable, engaging plot. Like I'm just moving along with it. In my sitting meditation, like of course, you know, I've been meditating since I think 98. And so I'm sitting there and, you know, I get this big wobble going. It's like, what was that? It reminded me actually like muscle memory or something of what it felt like in the sailboat. And then of course, watching Netflix, it's like, aha, you know, like I've got that wobbly sensation when I stop with the usual story in my head. And then it goes away. It's sort of like a new plot, something else is going on and it's predictable again. So it's like these intermittent experiences of sort of like wobbliness that is really like I'm not sure where they're coming from. It doesn't feel like there's no reason for me to be wobbling. Like, am I not doing my meditation right? Like, what's going on here? So it's uncomfortable. And so I think this is, I'm calling it the wiggle within. It's given me something to work with. And so that's sort of, I don't know, an insight that I've taken out of this sailboat Netflix ta-da moment or whatever. So those are my vehicles that are the examples that I've prepared for us tonight.